for the outer solar system here, and those two graphs are perfectly balanced.
Okay, AJ, we got to go on break. We'll be back in 8 minutes, so just hang in there. Everybody, you're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark. Our guest tonight is AJ.
There lies a silver thread of truth mixed in with propaganda. Be careful what you say to those with whom you'll be at odds, who've taken on the dogma in the pantheon of gods.
Doesn't matter if you're Christian or if Islam or Hindu, your horizons need to open to a universal view. The dynamics of change in an endless cosmic sea all need to be a part of your mind's reality. There's been more than one intrusion when you finally check the odds of groups and competition in the pantheon of gods.
Aztec gods, Celtic gods, gods of ancient Sumer. All of them existed, and it's not just myth or rumor. Greek gods, Hindu gods, all gods in relief. Weave a magic tapestry of spiritual belief. All of them have been here, part of spiritual decorum. And all of them are aspects of a complex cosmic forum.
Doesn't matter if you're Christian or if Islam or Hindu, your horizons need to open to a universal view. The dynamics of change in an endless cosmic sea.
Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark wants to give a big shout out to all the truckers that listen to our show.
If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com, and thank you. Do you have a paranormal story you want to share on Night Dreams Talk Radio? You could be a guest. Email us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
Night Dreams Talk Radio Network brings you the World Paranormal News with James Creechbaum. Now, the latest news.
I'm James Creechbaum with the Paranormal and World Changes News. A schoolgirl finds a 41,000-year-old mummified lemming in the permafrost. Her and her mother were strolling out along the river in the Siberia area of the North Arctic when they came across the lemming. Also, in the news, Amazon women. Amazon grave was found, and according to the reports, 4 female skeletons have been unearthed in a tomb in western Russia, complete with arrowheads, spears, and horseback riding equipment. Bears in Ukraine aren't hibernating because it's too warm, and they started suffering insomnia. Abnormally warm weather is affecting the hibernation activity of Ukraine's brown bears, conservatives have said. People say there's no global warming, but here we go. Also, 5G. There's a report out that 5G radiation causes behavior changes in humans, causes ion potentiation poisoning of brain cells leading to mass insanity. SUV in Pennsylvania was swallowed up in a sinkhole. Now, one witness said all you could hear was a loud scratch and a boom. Kind of sounded like a garbage can going into the back of a garbage truck, said the witness. Very loud, and then the SUV was here 1 minute and gone the next. Fear entire species of plants and animals lost in brush fires. There are real concerns. Entire species of plants and animals have been wiped out by brush fires following revelations almost 500 million animals have died since the crisis began in Australia. Those fires still continue on, unfortunately. Also, USA Air Force General says Space Force tech will get people anywhere on Earth in 1 hour or less. Stephen L. Quast, who retired from the United States Air Force this year, said there are 3 groundbreaking pieces of technology that are ready to be created by the Space Force. The next news break will be on our next show.
Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
And here I am. I can't believe this week just went by so fast. And, it's just like I looked at it, was like Christmas and it was New Year's, and now we're in the new year. It's already, going on the 4th. I tell you, time when you get older goes way faster. That proves a fact. When you're a kid, a day seems like weeks. When you had a father and mother said, hey, if you're good for the next 2 weeks, you'll get this. And those 2 weeks seem like forever. Now 2 weeks is like nothing. It's just like it happens instantly. I don't know. I don't know if you notice that, James, but I sure do.
Yeah, I have noticed that, and you know what I say? Is it spring yet? That's what I've been thinking. I'm waiting for spring already. I shouldn't really be complaining. We haven't even had winter here yet, and it's been winter for a long time. But You're right. I feel the same way.
Yeah, just wait and you'll get weather and a winter like you wouldn't believe. I got a funny feeling in the next couple of weeks you're going to get a lot of snow. Of course, I don't know. I'm just a medium. Anyway, moving right along, we got AJ. You had another couple questions you wanted to ask AJ. Go ahead.
Yeah. How long?
Oh, wait a minute. Wait, James. He said before we start. Go ahead, AJ.
I just wanted, everyone wants to get a look at me. I logged onto your Facebook page for the first time, so while during the break, just to be on common ground with you. And that's number one. So I just want to tell everyone that if you got the internet in front of you, you can type AJENSOR. That's AJE as in Edward, ENSOR.com, and everyone can get a look at me because that's my page. But that's my professional page from Orlando where I make TV commercials. And anyone have a look at that can go right ahead. If they want to see my latest book, they can just go to www.Amaday, that's AMADA, AmadayBook.com, and you can just press on the Amazon button, or if you prefer the digital, there's a digital button there too.
Interesting.
And the question is?
Yeah, James, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious, how long has John been coming here?
I never found that one out. That was one of the, and the reason I didn't find that out is because I don't think Josh knew.
Okay.
You have to remember that Josh operated in an extremely closed environment. Josh was also somebody who was constantly watched. And so Josh was an expert at keeping his mouth shut. He had no delusions about the quality of human beings that he was having to deal with in the chain of command he was a part of. All right, so that was just one question that I never got answered. Sorry.
Okay, and how many different Johns were coming here as well?
Well, again, observers. I never thought I counted more than 5, but I might have counted at least one twice. I never met the other 4. I accidentally met John, and I nearly passed out because John didn't know who I was, but I knew exactly who he was, and I wasn't supposed to know anything about him. Okay? And if the world had found out in that moment that I met him, I probably would have been eliminated. At least that's what I always thought would happen.
So you had a conversation with John then?
It was really short. It was like, "Oh, Josh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you had visitors." And I'll make this very brief. During his time in military intelligence during the 1980s, because of his particular profession, Josh had been in several firefights, and for different reasons. And even though we weren't at war, and he had been injured several times, and he had been given blood several times. And back in the 1980s, the blood was contaminated with HIV because of all the drug users and homosexuals giving blood, and they contaminated the blood supply. And so Josh wound up with HIV, but Josh had red hair and blue eyes. And people with red hair and blue eyes, or green eyes, red hair and green eyes, and the pale skin, they have found that most human beings have 750 receptors on each of their cells, and people of this particular descent just have 550. And persons with 550 are immune to HIV. So Josh got it, but only half of his cells were immune. So it ate away to him until about 4 weeks after 9/11, which is when he passed away. And while he was in the process of dying, I would from time to time go visit him. All right, and at this particular moment, I hadn't announced my visit sooner than later, and I showed up, and there were a lot of black Chevys around, and I didn't think anything too much about it on the outside. On the inside, I realized that they were some kind of Fed, and when I walked into the room where Josh was, he had moved his bed into his living room because he couldn't go up the stairs no more. And when I walked in there and I saw this guy, I knew exactly. I had had his description given to me a dozen times over those past 2 decades. And when I walked into that room, I knew exactly who I was in the same room with. Okay, and the blood ran out of my face apparently because I was stunned. There was always this tiny bit of disbelief, that tiny bit of BS that I thought Josh and his inebriation might have been feeding me. And in that moment, I was face to face with John in person, and that was very, hello, how are you? Nice to meet you. We didn't touch or anything like that. And they were all getting ready to leave. And to tell you how bad it got, as soon as they left, I had to go down on the floor next to his couch and put my feet up on his couch. And Josh, who is dying, was consoling me. And I was just going, that was him, wasn't it? He said, yeah, and wasn't that special? So John had showed up to say goodbye to Josh.
Well, let me ask you this. Our Earth, it's obviously wasn't biological hazard to John, and so obviously John didn't have the technology to help or heal Josh?
No, he did. He wouldn't interfere, though.
Okay.
He has to. I had this exact argument with Josh several times. All right? I mean, I don't want to lose my friend. And from my perspective, I was a lot younger back then, a lot narrow-minded. From my perspective, he had been poisoned, okay? It wasn't his fault. It shouldn't have been happening. and it was happening, and I was really kind of angry about